Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsea. If you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up or commenting below. If you want to see more of my videos, press the subscribe button and click on the bell for notifications. If you need any Stampin' Up! Products to make this card, you can visit my online store, and the link is in the description box below. Today I would like to share with you another paper pumpkin alternative project using the September 2020 paper pumpkin kit called Hello Pumpkin. So this kit comes with everything you need to make these cute treat boxes. And what I like to do is take some extra supplies and create alternative projects using the supplies in the kit as well as the stamp set from the kit and then a couple other items from my craft room. If you would like to watch me unbox this video, as well as see my other alternative projects, you can click in this upper right-hand corner and it will take you to my playlist. Each month, I provide my Paper Pumpkin subscribers with an exclusive card kit designed by me. This is the card they will be making with their kit. If you would also like to receive this extra perk, you can sign up to get your own Paper Pumpkin subscription by clicking on the link below in the description box, or you can visit my blog, creativechelsea.com. So this card also has some really fun techniques that we'll be going over today. So let's go ahead and get started making this card. Don't miss out on the fun. Make sure to subscribe by October 10th to receive next month's kit. It will make 8 beautiful holiday cards. Subscribe by clicking on the link below in the description box. So before we begin, I just want to mention that this card uses only the stamp set from the kit. And that's one of the things that I try to focus on when creating my exclusive card kit, is that this is something they can make after they have used up all the supplies that come in the kit, and they just have the stamp set and the ink spot left. And so this is just something that they can continue to create with and give them some ideas on how to use that stamp set. So some of the things you're going to need if you're creating this card on your own is a label punch. And this is the everyday label. Stampin' Up! Also has some other really great label shape punches. And so you can check those out on my Stampin' Up! Store. You're going to need the cardstock. And what I have here is a Smoky Slate card base, and it's cut to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and scored at 4 1/4. Then I also have a piece of Cajun Craze, and this is cut to 3.5 inches by 4 3/4 inches. And then this piece is the Whisper White piece that we'll be stamping on, and it's cut to 3 1/4 inches by 4.5 inches. I have already punched out that label, and I'm going to show you both the pumpkin and an idea to use the witch's hat as well. So that's why I have 2. Then you'll need 2 pieces of colored cardstock that are cut in a 1/2 inch strip, and they're just cut to 4 1/4 inches in length. And then you'll need a strip for your greeting, and this is another 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inches. I am going to be using Smoky Slate, but you could use any other gray ink, and that's going to give us this fun background texture, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then I did find some other Stampin' Spot inks from past Paper Pumpkin kits to kind of incorporate with this card. And so I pulled the Blackberry Bliss, which matches this cardstock, Pretty Peacock, which is this color, and then I also have a darker gray for my pumpkin, and then the Cajun Craze that came in the September's kit. Now, if you don't have these colors, you can also create this card using other coordinating and Halloween colors. So just go ahead and find colors that you think go well with this Cajun Craze ink. All right, so let's begin stamping for our card. And the first thing I want to show you is how to create this really fun texture in the background. And it's a pretty simple technique. I've grabbed a clear block, and this one has a nice sharp edge on it. If you're using one that's more rounded, You may get a different shape, but that's going to be just fine. So you're going to take your Smoky Slate or another gray ink, and you're just going to actually stamp your entire clear block on this ink pad. And you want to fill your clear block with ink. So just make sure that when you're done, that you can see that there is ink all over. Now, not only is it on my clear block, but because I'm not using one of the normal Stampin' Up! Blocks, I did get it on my fingertips as well. So just make sure you clean that off before you stamp it on your paper, or you're going to get some fingerprint smudges. So now you're going to find the center of your Whisper White cardstock and just try to make sure it's lined up, and you just stamp it right down onto that paper. And you want to make sure you give it nice, even pressure all the way around. And another fun thing about this technique is that you're going to get a different look every single time. So you can see that this one is a lot more spotted. I'm going to even turn it around and maybe rub a little bit on the back to make sure that I'm getting a good image there. So you can see that this one is more spotted, and this one had more like solid areas. So it's going to give you a different look each time, and that's kind of one of the fun parts of that technique. Okay, so that part can just go off to the side for now, and let's focus on our stamped main focal point image here. And so I'll start with the pumpkin, and then I'll show you the witch's hat. So for the pumpkin, let me grab my clear block and place the pumpkin. It's a pretty simple image to stamp. You're just going to use the Cajun Craze ink spot from the kit. And then you're wanting to stamp this on the upper half of that label. So give a little more space to the bottom. Nice good pressure. And then if you want to add the jack-o'-lantern face, you can do that as well. And that's one of these stamps here. I'm going to keep it off it for now and turn that card into more of a fall card using the Give Thanks or Hello Pumpkin greeting for this one. Now I did do a little bit of coloring on the inside, and I grabbed my blender pen again for this. And I've done this on a couple of the other alternative projects I've shown for this month's kit. So you can either pick up color from your ink pad, or you can just have it come from your stamped image. But you want to make sure that you stay with the shape of the pumpkin, as well as give it some dark and light values on that color, so you can get some shadows and highlights in there. So something like that. Let me move my finger. You can also add some color up here to the stem, the leaf. And if you wanted, you could grab a Stampin' Write marker, like I've got this green one here, and you can add some color to your images that way as well. So I think I might do that with the stem. I'm using Mossy Meadow here. So this is a dark color. And if I wanted, I could also pull ink from the tip here and add that to my leaf to kind of give it that green color as well. So you got two different options here. You can go with a lighter version by using a blender pen and your ink, or you can go with a darker version and just use that tip of that blender pen. Okay, so that one is done. And again, like I said, if you wanted the jack-o'-lantern, you can just stamp that in the basic gray right onto your pumpkin. Okay, so there's one. And then the other option is a witch's hat. So go ahead and grab that if you want to give this option a try. I'm going to get a piece of scrap paper to put underneath so I don't get ink on my work area. I'm going to remove that pumpkin. And then I'm picking up the witch's hat. And this time I'm going to actually ink it up in a darker Blackberry Bliss. And the reason for this is because there are some solid flowers, and I want those flowers to be in this pretty purple color. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink the whole thing, and then I'll show you how I color in the images on this witch's hat. So this hat is just a little bit bigger than the label. So you're just going to need to kind of squeeze it on and get as much as you can. And that, again, that top half of that label shape. So something like that. And then you want to give it a minute to make sure you get a nice dry before you can color in some of those other colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by coloring in the witch's hat with Blackberry Bliss. And so I'm going to pull some ink from that ink pad, and I'm just going to start kind of filling in this witch's hat with some of that ink. And I want to make sure I stay outside of any of these shapes. I can go back and get some more ink if I want. And that just kind of gives that witch's hat a nice, fun purple color. And then I go up here. And just get ink as you need it. As it kind of starts to fade out, you can pick up some more ink. One thing you're going to notice when using a blender pen is you're not going to get a nice smooth look. It's not the alcohol markers that will give you a nice smooth image. You're going to see some of that, the markings. And so that's just part of the technique. Okay, so don't get too frustrated by it. Just kind of accept it, or use alcohol markers if you want to color this image in. Okay, now that the other images have had time to dry, I'm going to fill in the pumpkin with some Cajun Craze. Let me get the right tip for that. Pick up some ink. And so this time, because it was stamped with purple, I'm going to need to pick up a lot more ink of that Cajun Craze to make sure I'm coloring in as orange instead of turning my pumpkin purple. Now I also want to get a little bit of orange over here on this little cute little band. And then for now, that is done. So I'm just going to clean off that brush by wiping it on some scrap paper. And then I do want to use a little bit of green for those leaves. So I have an Old Olive Stampin' Write marker, as well as an Mossy Meadow Stampin' Write marker. So I'm going to use both of these to color in my leaves. And I'm just going to start with these larger leaves here in the Mossy Meadow. And it is a dark color, but because we colored in the witch's hat with a lighter purple, it will be okay, and it will kind of show up against that lighter purple. If we had done a nice dark black or something like that, it might have a hard time showing. And then I'm going to do this stem, this green as well. And then I'll take my Old Olive, and my tip here is actually kind of wearing down a little bit. And so I'm going to use the really fine tip, and I'm just going to color in these leaves with that fine tip. This is a small image, and so I'm okay to do something like that. But if I was doing a larger coloring area, I probably wouldn't use the fine tip. I need to actually purchase some more of these markers, because a lot of them are kind of in that place where the tips on that brush side are kind of fraying a little bit, which happens over time with use. Okay, so then right down here, I'm going to use a black marker just to kind of give it that shadow. And so I'm just going to kind of carefully bring that into that shape. And again, this one is one that needs a little bit in that corner with the fine tip. Okay, so there's that fun image. And so now we have a couple choices when creating our card. We can either go with the witch's hat or with our Thanksgiving pumpkin. So let's go ahead and finish the stamping for this card. So back to our gray card, you'll notice that there's some of these cute leaves in the background. Go ahead and remove that again. And let's start with the Cajun Craze leaf. And I did that in the longer leaf shape. So that's going to be in Cajun Craze. Now, if you are using different colors, then you should stamp in those coordinating colors. So if you're using maybe Mossy Meadow or like a yellow like Bumblebee, then make sure that you're stamping in those colors. Now I wanted to do these kind of in a triangle. So I'm kind of creating a group of 3 in 3 different areas on my card. Okay, so there's just those first 3 leaves. And then I'll grab the other leaf, which I did in the Pretty Peacock. I'll just put that on the opposite side in another corner so I can still see it. So this is Pretty Peacock. And I'm just going to kind of stamp it near that other leaf. Doesn't have to be in the same spot every time, just kind of close by. Let's do this one kind of going down like that. Okay, so there's the second leaf. And then I'll grab a new block and put the flower on there. And this time I'm using the Blackberry Bliss. Just gonna ink that up and then stamp that again near that grouping. Okay, so that background stamping is done. And the last thing we need to do is stamp our greeting. And so I'm going to try to do, I'm just going to do this same trick or treat, spooky or sweet, because I think I want to use the witch's hat that we made for this one. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to use the darker gray this time. I used this lighter smoky slate gray to kind of coordinate with the other colors, but I think it could be a little darker. So this time I'm going to use the basic gray ink and just ink that greeting up and stamp it in the center here. So you might have noticed that my paper here are flagged kind of in the little banner, and I did that using the Banners Pick-a-Punch, and I'm really loving this. This gives you 3 different sizes with 2 different ends, and so you have like 6 different options here. So the sizes go from 1/2 inch all the way up to 1 inch, so you have a 3/4 inch here in between, and then you get a fishtail and then more of a, I don't know what to call that, like a pointed banner. And so I usually will go with the fishtail, but because I have this and I haven't used this side yet, I chose to go with more of the pointed banner. And it's just so easy to use. You just slip in your paper and it will go to the end, and then you punch it, and you can just see what a nice edge that gives your strips. And so you can just flip it and do it again for the other side. And then these two pieces are exactly the same length. And so if you want to get one that's a little shorter, then just punch it twice to get a shorter piece of cardstock there. So you can see now I punched that twice, maybe even punch it 3 times, depending on how much shorter you want it to be, so that they're kind of staggered. So let's see. Yeah, 3 times is about right. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing here with my greeting. This is just a little bit on the small side, so it's 2 3/4 inches in length. And I just want to double check that it's in the right spot. So I'm going to do that again and just flip it over to make sure that it hasn't moved off because it's so tiny. The length in these kinds of holds it in place so it doesn't move or shift. And so that's why I was just kind of checking on the back. Okay, so now we're ready to put our card together. We're going to start by adding the Whisper White stamped piece to the center of our Cajun Craze. And that's just going to give us a nice border there. This, I have a new cartridge in my Stampin' Seal, and it's really nice. It flows really nicely, but it kind of will put out a lot more adhesive than I expect. So there's that part. And then we're going to add the Blackberry Bliss. And just place a little bit in the center. And you're looking for maybe an inch or so up from the base of your gray stamp. And you're going to want to just center it on your card. And then we'll do the pretty peacock strip. Oh. And that's going to just go over the Blackberry Bliss slightly, kind of layer those like that. And then we're going to add our witch's hat, and that's going to get added with some dimensionals. And you can use the dimensionals from the kit, or you could use mini ones, however you want to add this to your card. And so I'm just going to bring it up just a little bit so you can see the bottom of that gray square in the arches here in the corner. And then just make sure that it's nice and level. And then you'll take your greeting, and I'm just going to add that. So you want your trick or treat to be centered on that card. So it's not centered with your strips here. So I'm just going to put a little adhesive on the back. If I had some mini dimensionals, you could put those in the corners. And I'm just going to bring that down. Probably going to have to cover up some of that witch's hat a little bit, but I think that turned out okay. So now we're going to add this to our card base. Go ahead and fold it in half. And I wanted to add it with some dimensionals, so that's why we're adding it last instead of adding it first. So then that just goes in the center of your front of your card base. Something like that. And then the very last thing we're going to add are some rhinestones. And so I have 3 little rhinestones here, and I'm just going to take one and put them near the other groupings of the leaves. And this is just going to give a little bit of bling to the card, but not overwhelm it. This one I'm going to bring a little closer to the greeting. So there we go. That card is all done. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, and share. Visit creativechelsea.com for more information about Paper Pumpkin and to start getting your monthly kit. Have a creative day!
Bye.